Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, and if this is your first time here, hello, welcome. This is Essential Patience and I am Patience. And in today's video, we are talking about life events you should start saving for. Now, life is always not a straight line. It's up and down, things go on. And as we progress, there are milestones that are very common in a lot of people's lives, as well as things that just happen. There are also financial goals and wanting to advance yourself. So here are 10 life events that you should probably start saving for. Even if it's just a little at a time, this is where you can just start putting something away. And when that life events come along, you'll be ready to take it on. Number one, of course, is an emergency. If you've been on this channel for any length of time, you would know that an emergency fund is highly recommended. I'm not a financial advisor. Life has a lot of emergencies, and there's something that Dave Ramsey says: having an emergency fund turns an emergency into an inconvenience. Of course, in the death of a family or somebody, like, that's not an inconvenience. Very serious life-changing moments for a lot of people. But for some typical things, such as your car breaks down, if you have an emergency fund to fix it, make sure that you'll have a transportation assets get it fixed. That's just an inconvenience. The goal is to always have an emergency fund 3 to 6 months, highly on the 6 month, just so that when things happen and life happens, you would not be set back on your other financial goals because you have to take care of this. I have a whole video on how to build an emergency fund, and I also have a deep dive into emergency funds, which shows that over 50% of Americans don't even have money to cover $1,000 emergency without going into debt or having to borrow. It is really important to make a budget, know how much your monthly expenses are, at least to the bare bones, which includes like your mortgage, utilities, car insurance, food, just in case something happens. And not having an emergency fund is an emergency. The next thing to save for is advancing your education. I highly recommend applying for scholarship. I think it gets a little difficult in certain fields. I don't know if you'll be able to get the funding from your work, scholarships, and it's something that you really want to do. Find and exhaust all other resources and opportunities before you pay for this, but still keep something else in case you want to advance your education. Right now, boot camps are very popular for people trying to pivot into tech or other industries, and a lot of them cost like over $10,000. It's easy to start saving now rather than to wait and then go into debt for it. So higher education is an investment. It doesn't have to be you directly. It could be applying for scholarship and all these other avenues. If you want to save for it, it is something that you should at least have something set aside. Next, we're getting really interesting. It's a house. Home ownership is one of the biggest assets for wealth building for the average American. Most people retire with their net worth heavily being their real estate property, because after you pay it off for however many years, whether they take a 15-year mortgage, 30-year mortgage, at the end you get a paid for house. And of course you have to pay the property taxes, maintenance fee, but it still does not compare to the prices of rent, as rent is going up. Home ownership is something to aspire to for a lot of people. Most people want to get a house or buy a house at least at some point in their lives. No matter if you want to buy it this year, next year, 10, 15 years from now, always start saving. Rent is going up astronomically. I currently rent, and I don't want to do this forever. I'm definitely saving a little bit at a time for it. And of course, they can be very expensive, and we all know that it is one of the biggest debts most people will take on, because very few people buy a house in cash or can even afford to do so. Very important that you at least have enough money for a down payment. So start saving now. If it is something that is closer, you may want to open a high yield savings account to put the money in there. But if it's something that's more further in the future, let's say 10 years down the line, you can always open a taxable brokerage account that you can take the money out anytime. Keep it in there. Don't be out here taking it out every single time. And just invest that money, because it's gonna have more time to grow. And the stock market over a longer period of time can correct itself. It goes through ups and downs. But if you're going to buy a house, say next year or even the next 2 years, you may not want to put it into one of those, because you don't know. The market could tank and it doesn't have enough time to recover for when you want to buy the house. So it's something to consider. And let's say you do own a house, but you want to upgrade to your next house. That is something else that you can still start doing, because if it's going to be more expensive than your current house, you may want to start saving up for the difference, even if you still want to take a mortgage on your new house. Who knows, maybe you can start saving now so you don't have to. Maybe you own a house paid for and then you want to buy a rental property. Start saving now, because buying a house is such a monumental time for a lot of people. So it's something that you can start taking seriously now and saving towards the future. The next thing is a vehicle, or upgrading in vehicles. It's become very normalized in our society. And I think some people even call it America's biggest addiction, which is cars, vehicles. A lot of people are now paying so much money for car notes. I think the average car note now is almost $800 for a new car, especially during the pandemic and after the aftermath of all of that. We run out of microprocessor chips, cars being available, things slowed down a lot, and therefore there was a shortage of cars, or there seemed to be. Some people may say it was kind of an inflated thing, but a lot of people bought cars, and for the first time in a long time, cars appreciated in value. Can you imagine that? But most of the time, cars are not gonna do that. Cars don't typically go up in value unless it's a collectible. The average car depreciates. People would even consider it a liability. So if you want to do this, make sure that you buy a car in cash, or as much close to cash as possible. I currently own a car, and I made that choice that my next car would definitely be bought in cash. I do not want to take on another auto loan debt, and I think it's really good to be able to save up for it, because once you get that big car note and stuff coming every month, it's gonna limit a lot of things that you can do. So that, okay, in the next 5 years I want to upgrade in cars. Start saving now. I personally don't plan on upgrading my car for a very long time, because it's a good car, it's a new car. Let's say you have like a 2015 car right now, and in 2025 you want to upgrade the car. By then your 2015 car would have depreciated in value by over 50% of what you bought it for. So if you want to get a new car in 2025, that means you sell it. Let's say if you do want to sell it, you put that money down. You can also start saving up for the difference now, that even if it doesn't cover the full cost of your car, which can be paid for cars, but even if not, you can still get as close to it as possible, so you're not paying a certain amount for like 72 months. Today, the average car note is like over a 70-month period. By the time you finish paying, you will hate the car. So start saving now so you can get your paid for car right out the door. The next thing is retirement. I talk about retirement all the time, and as a person in my early 20s, I would not stop. I keep emphasizing the importance of retirement. You can check out a lot of my videos on Roth IRAs, saving for retirement. I did a whole deep dive into statistics about retirement, and that's how passionate I am about telling people to save for retirement, because retirement for most people is so real. The average lifespan in the United States, it's past the age of 62, which means that for most of us, we would hopefully be lucky enough to reach retirement. And I don't want to be that person who works till I die. At least if I'm gonna work after retirement, I want it to be optional. But the money you save today in your early 20s is worth much more than what you save in your 30s, your 40s, and your 50s. The saying is the best time to have invested was like 20 years ago. The next best time is now. I don't know, it's not like 19 years and 364 days ago. But start now. Don't wait. Even if you're in your early 20s, even if you're 18 years old, you have some money to spare, open a Roth IRA, start investing. And it's so sad when you see a lot of older people who can't retire, a lot of older people who still have to work till they can't no more. You may want to work past retirement. Some people are like, oh, I never want to retire. But sometimes situations will force you into retirement. So at least prepare for it. And if nothing else, even if you never retire, at least you would have money to pass on to the next generation. At least you will have the opportunity to buy the things that you want to buy and live the type of life that you want to do it. And let's not forget that a lot of time when you get older, it comes with some medical problems, health complications. We don't pray for that, but it's possible. So at least you want to make sure that you have an HSA. Aim for over $1 million in retirement. And if you open even just a Roth IRA and you max out at $6,500 a year, which is approximately $540 a month for the next 40 years at an 8 to 10% return rate, you're looking at over $2 million that you can retire on. And that would really help you to retire comfortably, especially if you have a paid for house at that time. The sixth thing is a wedding. Now that sounds more fun, but the average wedding in the United States costs over $30,000 now. What does that mean? People are going into debt to do a wedding. And I'm not one of those people who says, oh, like just do like a $2,000 wedding or $5,000 wedding. I think people should do the wedding that they can afford. But the average American can't really afford that $30,000 in wedding costs. So what's the solution? Is to start saving now. Now, do not blow all of your money on a wedding. I think that the wedding is symbolic and it's a joyous time, but it is not worth going into debt for. Of course, it's like one day, but in some African cultures, it's more like 3 days. In some Indian weddings or some other cultures, it's like a whole week. And it can be fun, but at the end of the day, it's a big cost. And the best thing to do is to start saving now. The wedding that's gonna happen within the next few months to 2 years, you may want to put in a high yield savings account. But if it's farther out, or you just don't know because there's no man in sight, you may just want to put it into a taxable brokerage account where it can be earning interest. And you can always invest it in low cost index funds. And that's a way to just start saving money. Because if it's something that you aspire to, you want to get married someday, you must as well just start saving now. You're praying for it, start saving for it. The next thing is children. Now, I think the childbirth rate is like down. Some people don't want to have children because it's expensive. Some people have different beliefs. But overall, a lot of people do have children or want to have children. And so what I say is that make sure that, again, you prepare for it because children are expensive. Even giving birth in the United States is expensive. Now, if you don't know, the cost of childbirth is over $10,000 on average. And that does not even include like complicated births, because if the birth is complicated, it can go upwards of like 20 grand. And even if you have insurance, that could be like your copay, because the copay is ridiculous. I've heard people who are like, giving birth to my child and I had to pay $5,000 for my child, and that was their copay. So insurance doesn't cover everything. The diapers, the clothes, daycare. Now the average daycare is over $10,000 for one child per year. So imagine, and this is before they get to kindergarten. And some people have to pay for aftercare and even before aftercare. So it's a lot of money that goes into it. You don't have to be like this man and his wife who is spending $80,000 a year on it.
$180,000, and you're going to explain that with childcare costs?
Hold on, how much are you paying a month in childcare?
It's about $80,000 a year.
You bought them in college?
Tuition for the child daycare we use is $25,000 per kid. Then we pay extra for early care and aftercare, and it doesn't go during the summer. So during the summer, we need a nanny.
You guys have lost your minds.
There's cheaper routes.
Oh, you think? I mean, are they going to Harvard?
Time to take the kids off filet mignon.
It is something that you can start saving for if it is a goal that you have. Now, of course, you can't determine every single cost, and you may not want to have children for a while. So it's something that you can always, again, put into a taxable brokerage account and just prepare for it. You can't anticipate for everything. But if that's what you want, you may just, start saving now. Find the best way to make that experience as enjoyable as possible, where you're not beaten down by the cost, because having children is expensive. The 8th thing to save for is your health. Now, as I stated before, if you get to the age of retirement, if you are older, but it's not always even that. Sometimes young people fall into grave illnesses that change their lives forever. And one of the best ways to start saving for those is to put a little bit aside for your health as well. You can always do this with insurances, short-term disability insurance and long-term disability insurance. They're a form of saving for it in case something happens. Let's say long-term, you may be able to get 50 to 60% of your salary for however many years. If you have the opportunity to invest in an HSA, definitely open up one. A lot of companies now have it. If you choose a high deductible health plan, you'll be able to open an HSA, which is a health savings account, but it's a triple tax benefit, which I have a whole video on. But the money that goes in is tax-free. As long as you use it for medical stuff, it's tax-free, and if you invest it, it is tax-free as well. So take advantage of it. Health is wealth, and you don't want some sickness or, we can't control those things all the time. but at least we can control certain aspects of it. The ninth thing is your children's education. If you want to help your children with their education, start saving for them. You don't have to do it right now if you don't have children. I don't have any, I'm not saving. But if you do have children, you can literally open it right after they're born. So if you want to open at 529, you can start that. I've seen some parents who talk about how instead of like giving gifts, you can just like contribute to their 529, and 10 people contribute $50 each. That's over $500 that can go into their 529 and grow in there as they age. And if this happens year after year after year, that's a lot of money. So you can be able to invest in your future and help them. It doesn't have to pay for the whole cost of college, because the cost of college is getting a little ridiculous. And I wonder what the future holds, because it's looking more towards like $100,000 a year for just an undergraduate degree. And for 4 years, that's over $400,000. But it's looking like it's creeping towards that faster than we thought. And so if that's something that you invest in your children and just help them, give them a head start, you can do that. It's really nice to help your children out. You know, help them get a head start in life. And that's something that I definitely want to do. And if you want to do that too, start saving for your children's education. And the last thing to start saving for is relocating. But I think the average person relocates like 12 times in their lives. That might be a bit much, but I'm pretty sure that's the number. But what does that mean for you? That you'll be having a lot of life changes. Of course, some is before they're able to control themselves, so like childhood, which you can't control, you don't have to save for. But after, it's good to start saving. So I relocated after I graduated college to come in for a job, and something that I actually did was save for this move. It's very expensive, and I have a lot of videos about apartments and even just the moving process, because I moved from one apartment in this area to another one, my current one, and that was even still expensive enough. But it's something that if you know you want to move, do your research and start saving for. And now some people could be like, okay, that could be an emergency fund. But for me, I think that if there's something that I can save for and plan for, that's not an emergency. Emergency should be something that I didn't see coming. But if I see that, okay, maybe next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, I want to relocate to Salt Lake City, I can just start saving for it now rather than then tapping into my emergency fund, because an actual emergency might happen and I wouldn't have enough time to replenish it before it takes a big hit. So if it's something that you can actually plan and it's not like, oh, just get up and go, then start planning for it and start saving for it. It's a life-changing event, and when you have that money, it makes it so much easier. Now, money is not the answer to everything, but for a lot of things and events that happen in your life, money can make that transitioning much easier when you're not stressed about it and when you don't have to stay up at night just thinking about what to do because you don't have enough money. And with that, I am bringing this video to an end. Thank you all so much. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And remember to ring the notification bell, because I post 2 videos a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. And share this video with somebody that you think it would help. And let me know in the comment section, is there anything else that you recommend people start saving for? Because it's always more things that we don't even think about. And I'll be glad to know it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.